Hey everyone! So it's been a while since I've done another book haul video, and by a while I mean since 2017. So since then I have gotten a lot more books, and by a lot I mean almost 50 new books. So let's get right into my 2019 book haul video. The first book is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I've been wanting to read this since 2013 when it came out, but I never got the book until last year because the movie adaptation came out, and it really made me feel like I wanted to finally get the book. It also sounded interesting to me, and it's definitely a book that I think I would really love. Next is The Darkest Legacy by Alexandra Bracken again. I can't really say too much about this book because it's the fourth book in the Darkest Minds series. I got it because it's a Walmart special signed edition and I really want to read the series anyway, so yeah. Next is Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken again. This is a sequel to Passenger, which I have but haven't read it yet. I know I will enjoy it because of the genres it is, and it also has to do with time travel, which I love anything to do with that. Next is Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. I have been really wanting to read Brandon Sanderson books for a couple of years now, so when this book came out, which was in 2013, I was really interested in wanting to read it because it has to do with superheroes and kinda anti-superheroes. And I didn't get the book until last year, so now that I have it, I'm really looking forward to reading it. Next is A Million Suns by Beth Revis. This is the sequel to Across the Universe book. I thought the synopsis of the first book seemed interesting, so when I saw the second book at my library's book sale, I picked it up. Next is 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. This is a book that has been on my Goodreads to read list for a while. When I heard what it was about from a booktuber I watch, it sounded really interesting to me. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this book. Next is Inkheart by Cornelia Funke. I first found out about Inkheart from the movie adaptation of it. I really enjoyed the movie of it, and it really made me want to get the book so that way I can read it, and I didn't know it was a series, so I'm really looking forward to getting around to reading it. Next is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. I really wanted to get this version of the book because I have the rest of the series in the same version, and I wanted it to all match. Next is The Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis, again. This is the bind-up of the series. I got this at my library's book sale. The first time I saw it there, I didn't get it and said I'll get it next time if it's still there. Well, the next time when the book sale came along, it was still there, so obviously I got it. Next is Ella Enchanted by Gail, Carson, Levine. I wanted to read the book after finding out a few years ago the movie I love so much and have watched so many times was based on a book of the same name. I have read it and I'll say more of my thoughts on it in my wrap-up video. Next is Fairest by Gail, Carson, Levine. Again, since I have read Ella Enchanted by her, I wanted to read more of her books. This one is based in the same world as Ella Enchanted, but with different characters, which is why I chose this one of hers to read next. Next is Rising by Holly Kelly. I found this one on my own on Goodreads. I was looking for more books that have to do with mermaids and mermen because I love anything to do with those. So on top of the list when I looked up mermaids and mermen was this book. And it sounds really, really good, so I really can't wait to read it. Next is Sisters Red by Jackson Pierce. This was the first book I read after I read the Hunger Games series. I enjoyed it enough to the point where I wanted to continue on with the series. Next is Story Thieves by James Riley. I wanted to read some more middle grade books and I found this one on Goodreads. It sounded really interesting to me and I finally got it last year at Barnes & Noble. It's more of a adventure style middle grade book. I love anything to do with adventure. Next is The People of Sparks, The Prophet of Yonwood, and The Diamond of Darkhold by Jean Duprow. I first found out about this series from the movie adaptation. When I watched it, I really enjoyed it, and then I looked up the movie to see if it's a book. I got the first book, read it, and wanted to get the rest of the series. And I got all of these 3 at my library's book sale. Next is Deep Blue, Rogue Wave, and Dark Tide by Jennifer Donnelly. I got all 3 of the books on sale at Barnes & Noble. It wasn't until I got home when I realized there are actually 4 books in the series. And I have actually heard of this series for years now, and it has to do with mermaids, which is why I have been wanting to read the series for years now. Next is The Traitor's Game and The Deceiver's Heart by Jennifer A. Nielson. Jennifer quickly became one of my top favorite authors in 2016 when I read her Ascendance Trilogy series. Since then, I have pretty much bought all of her books. This is her new book series, and the second book just came out earlier this year. And the third one will most likely come out next year. I really can't wait to get into this new series of hers. Next is Resistance by Jennifer A. Nielson, again. So every year she releases a new historical fiction novel, and this one was her 2018's new release. I can't wait to read all of them. Next is Peter Pan by Jm Barrie. I love Peter Pan and haven't actually read the book, but I have seen a lot of movies of it. So just like with the Enchanted situation, I really wanted to read the book because I have watched a lot of Peter Pan adaptations so many times. Next is Peter Pan in Scarlet by, I don't even want to try to pronounce her name. Adding to what I just said about Peter Pan, I got this because I love Peter Pan and I can read both of the books back to back. Next is Chasing Sunsets by Karen Kingsbury. I got this yet again from my library's book sale. I wanted to start reading her books because I kinda am a fan of her already. There has been some of her books that were turned into movies by the Hallmark Channel, and I loved them. Next is The Light Between Worlds by Laura E. Not exactly sure how to pronounce her last name. When I found out what this book is about and compared to, I was so excited and very interested in getting it right away. The book is compared to Narnia, so yeah, I was definitely really excited to hear that. I even love it whenever anyone mentions Narnia just in general. So, really can't wait to read this book. Next is The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. I have seen the movie adaptation of it when I was younger and watched it some more growing up. I didn't even know that it's a book series until the Netflix adaptation came out, which I love very much. That's when I really wanted to start reading the book series. I have already read it and I'll say more of my thoughts in my wrap-up video. Next is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. When I saw the Netflix adaptation of the series, I fell in love with the show. Again, I didn't know it was a book series and had many different adaptations of it as well. So since I loved the show so much, I really wanted to start reading the book series. Next is King Arthur Volume 1 and 2 by, I'm not exactly sure how to say his name. I love anything that has to do with King Arthur and Merlin, especially the show Merlin. I have also seen a lot of other things about King Arthur and that world, and I have never read the books. So now I can finally read the source material. And I know that there's 2 other books in the series as well. Next is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I love anything to do with fairy tales and fairy tale retellings. This series is a very popular fairy tale retelling series on BookTube and sounded very interesting to me. I have been really wanting to read it since I first heard of it, and I know I will most likely love this series. Next is Renegades by Marissa Meyer, again. This book is about superheroes, and I love anything to do with superheroes. It is a pretty big book, and it's probably the biggest book I own. It also seemed very interesting to me besides it being about superheroes. Next is Hero by Mike Lupica. Speaking of superheroes, this book is also about a superhero. Again, I found this at my library's book sale, and it looked and sounded interesting, so I decided to get it. Next is Fox by Nadine Brandis. When I first heard of this book from a booktuber I watch, I became very interested in getting it. It sounded like something I would love a lot. Also, the book cover really caught my eye, and all of those things put together made me want to get the book even more. Next is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time, since the book came out. I never ended up getting the book until the movie came out and I watched it. I got the book again at my library's book sale. Next is Unraveling by Sara Ella. I have read Unblemished, which is the first book in this series, and I will say more of my thoughts on it in my wrap-up video. Just know that it was interesting enough for me to want to get the sequel to it. Next is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. Now, I have already read this book back in 2013 and I thought it was good. I did enjoy it enough to want to continue with the series, but not right away at the time. When they announced that the series was going to continue, I really wanted to reread Uglies and to finally read the rest of the series. Next is Princess Academy by Shannon Hale. I love anything to do with royalty, so I found this on Goodreads after reading the Space Trilogy back in 2016. It sounded really interesting to me, and in 2017 I finally got the book again at my library's book sale. I'm looking forward to reading this. Next is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This book has been on my TBR list on Goodreads for years. I found it on Goodreads because I wanted to read more middle grade fantasy series. This series is a very popular middle grade series, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Next is The Christmas Banquet and Driftwood Cottage by Cheryl Woods. Chesapeake Shores is a show on Hallmark Channel that I love so much. I didn't know that it was based on a book series, and these are two of the books that are a part of the book series. I would love to read all of them someday. Next is Sage Alexander and the Hall of Nightmares by Steve Kopling, or Kopling. Not sure exactly how to pronounce his last name. This is a book that sounded interesting and seemed like I would love it. I found it by watching a bookish show on YouTube called Book Chat. Throughout the show, they were talking about it and promoting the book, and the more they talked about it, the more I really wanted to read it. Next is The Merlin Effect by T.A. Barron. Like I said earlier, I love anything to do with King Arthur and Merlin. It's another book I found at the book sale, and what I didn't know is that this is the third book in the series, so I can't read it yet until I get the first book. Next is Scan by Walter Jury and Sarah Fine. Just like with the book Hero, I got it at the book sale at the same time I got Hero. I thought it sounded and looked interesting, and it also has to do with aliens, and anything to do with aliens is very interesting to me. And last is The Shack by William Paul Young. I got this book because I really wanted to see the movie. I wanted to read the book that the movie is based on, then see the movie right after reading it. And this is a Christian faith-based book, and I love anything that is faith-based. So those are all the new books that I got to show you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like this video and subscribe for more booktube videos. I hope you have an amazing day. I love you all so much, and look out for my next video, which will be coming out sometime soon. Bye everyone!